So hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm going to show you some of the theater resources we have tied to the library. So that being said, I'm going to share my screen so you can all see the library website. So whenever you want to use library resources, please do come to library.uarts.edu. Don't just go to the resource. The last time I visited Pig Iron, somebody asked if we had JSTOR, which is exciting. JSTOR is a great example where they recently updated their site where you can now log in through the library. Regrettably, when you pick us, it does not work. So don't do that. If you ever want to use JSTOR, just come to the library website and find it in our online resources section down here. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today, some of our online resources, and of course, some of the ones that particularly tie to theater. But I also want to start where I always start. We're on the library webpage. If you notice in the top right in our quick 4 little links there, the second one is for contact. Under here, we have a chat help question area. Contact us down here, a list of the librarians and who we work with. Over here is contact a librarian. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions. The number one thing we're here to do is help. And my running joke is, if I'm not talking to you, I might be doing statistics, and I hate doing statistics. So the more questions I get, the more I get saved from them. So please
you can get in touch 5 different ways through the homepage. That's amazing.
Yeah, we're not messing around. And from there, I like to say, once you're ready to get going, there's kind of 3 ways to get started. The catalog in the top right is a great option, but it's going to principally search physical things. So you'll get some ebooks, you'll get some streaming video, but it's going to be a lot of physical material. Since we're working from off campus, that might not be the way to go right now, but we can circle back there if we have time. A good example, as Quinn and I were just kind of chatting about, if you did want a song, you would want to search the catalog. And when I land on one search, I'll show you why. That might get a little heady, but I'll do my best. But I want to start because what one search tries to do is tries to search all of our online resources, which you can see broken out down here. You can always click the all databases link and see them all, but there's a lot, as you can imagine. So instead, we have them broken out: articles, ebooks, e-journals, if you want to browse a particular magazine or academic journal, image databases, reference sources, and streaming video. Streaming video is arguably the funnest resource we have, so I'll go to that one. I'll probably spend the most time on that one, but I do want to show reference sources real quick. And the reason being is because when I say one search tries to search everything, reference sources are a great example of something it can't search. So if you do a search in one search for, let's use an example, North America Theater Online, it will tell you, yes, we have North America Theater Online, but it won't tell you what's in North America Theater Online. And just as a quick aside, they're actually currently rebranding to Theater in Context Collection. So once they're done, we'll update our stuff. But what I like about this, and actually I'm going to go back real quick if you'll bear with me. What I like about this, and if you notice, we have the Oxford International Encyclopedia of Dance, Oxford Art Online, Oxford Music Online, and we do have Oxford down here, Oxford Encyclopedia of Theater and Performance, which is great. But the reason I really like North America Theater Online is it's pulling from lots of different reference sources, which may be a little smaller, so to speak. So for example, I had a student one time that asked me about Edith Skinner. Full disclosure, I said, yeah, I'd happily meet and talk with you about Edith Skinner, having no idea who Edith Skinner was. So I used Wikipedia, and I found out she was a voice coach, a dialect coach. I looked in Oxford, and she wasn't there, but here, sure enough, there's a great entry on her in the North American Notable Woman in American Theater. It was funny too, because I said the truth. I used Wikipedia to get some background on her because I didn't know anything about her. When the student came in, I told them that, and she was like, oh yeah, there's like three sentences of information on Wikipedia. Should I pick somebody else? And I was like, no. And once I showed her this resource, which if you wait for it, I will say everything's been running slow for me today, so I apologize in advance for that. I'm assuming it's the weather, but who knows? Everybody's online all the time now. And you can see it's got this nice little entry on her. It's pretty thorough, actually, which was pretty cool. And once the students saw that, they were pretty happy and done with me. But I still took her all the books about voice coaching and found chapters on Edith Skinner in there. We actually had a VHS of Edith Skinner, which the student was not as interested in because who has a VHS player? But since it wasn't published on DVD, we converted it to DVD for her. All things we can do if you come and talk to us. And do I expect anybody in this room, so to speak, to know whether to use Theater in Context Collection or to use Oxford Art Online? Not necessarily. Oh, excuse me, Oxford Encyclopedia of Theater and Performers. Not necessarily. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We can kind of point you in the right direction. I do want to go into Oxford Encyclopedia of theater and performance, just to point out one thing. This is really annoying, and it's only true of the theater and the dance encyclopedias. They have fixed the visual arts and music ones. But if you go in here and you want to search for somebody, it immediately looks like you should use the search bar in the top right. Don't do that. You have to scroll down and do search within this work. If you use the one in the top right over here, it's going to search everything Oxford has, which you can as imagine is a plethora of things. And we only really subscribe to the ones tied to art and general courses that we offer here. So silly note, but if you do want to use this resource, which is again kind of the gold standard, you can always go down here and search within this work. I won't go through the rest of them. Again, on this reference sources page, you can see we have a lot that get very specific: African-American history, broken up by time period, Enlightenment, Middle Ages, Reform, Renaissance. But we also have, that I do want to point out to y'all, is the Performance Design Archive online. It's a relatively new database. I always want to say we got it about a year ago, but at this point we probably got it about 2.5 years ago, and I just keep saying a year ago. But we've had it for a little while now, and I've especially shown it to some of the people that are into set design, costume design. They seem to really dig it, and that's pretty much what it's all about, designing for the theater. So you can kind of get a sense of it two ways. One, if you click on this areas of design, it's going to show you there's almost 3,000 things related to costume design. You can go down the list: lighting, production, set design, sound design. So a lot of different kind of designs covered. And then in this content types box, I always get nervous talking to theater folks. I know you're better at presenting than I am, so bear with me. If you look at this content type, it'll show you the things from books, essays, interviews. I, of course, like at the bottom, the sketches, the technical drawings I find really interesting. And it's just pretty cool. If anybody does end up using it, I would love feedback, because I think it's cool, kind of from the outside looking in. And when I've showed it to some people that I know are specifically interested in this stuff, they seem to dig it. But if any of you check it out, I would love to know what you think. I would love an honest opinion. That would be very cool. So those are my quick overview on reference sources. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world. So at that point, I'm going to hop over and do the things I think makes everybody happy, show our streaming video real quick. Before I click on that link, does anybody have any questions or thoughts or what have you? No? Cool. Then I will keep going. So yeah, I think our streaming video is pretty robust. It's got a lot of good stuff. I do want to take a look at Alexander, our largest provider of streaming video, with 65,000 things, as well as Canopy, which is possibly our most popular one, and also our most expensive one. I'll circle back there in a second. But specifically for theater, I want to touch on Digital Theater Plus, which, Quinn, you said you guys have been exploring a little bit, which is really cool. Shakespeare's Globe on Screen, just so you know it exists, and On the Boards TV, which I'm less familiar with, but we'll get to that one in a second. So yeah, you've already explored. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, On the Boards could be very interesting and useful for us, because there's a lot of great stuff. They opened it up in the pandemic for free for a period of time, but I think now it's no longer that way. But since we have access to it here, that's great.
Yeah, let's check that one out first, because it's the one that I honestly know the least about. Sarah McDonald's our reference librarian and dance liaison, and she said it was very popular with the dance department. I know, Quinn, you met with Erin, who is a UArts theater graduate and getting her library degree, and she said there was some devised performance pieces in here, a little out of my wheelhouse. But what I do know is they have a lot of contemporary performances that look really interesting. In addition, they have interviews, master classes, all these kind of fun things. And yeah, as a student, you can just come in and browse them. So
could we look at artists for a second?
Absolutely.
So, and like if we went down, there's somebody there's a thing called Lars Jan, Early Morning Opera. Can we just click on Lars to the left right there?
Aha.
So if there was a Lars piece that we could see, Institute of Memory, this is cool. So is that a piece that we could watch?
Should be.
Yeah, 1 hour, 14 minutes. Perfect. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, ideally everything in there you should have access to.
Great.
Yeah, so check that one out. And again, I would love feedback on this one too. I always say I'm going to sit down and explore this one more. I just haven't had the time. But I have heard good things from people that tend to use it more.
On the boards, just so you know, and others, it's a venue in Seattle, kind of like Fringe Arts in Philadelphia, in terms of they have homespun groups. It's a, you know, it's a venue, but they also decided that they were going to catalog and archive a lot of the work that has been seen there. And I don't know if all of these are recordings, but they invested in kind of a high-end set of equipment and videography to capture live work, and they archived it, and so it is quite a nice contemporary dance and contemporary theater list.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I read too that some of the ones that are in here are performances that were done once and likely won't be done again.
Yeah.
So if they hadn't captured it, there it goes. So it's very cool. One that I know a little bit more about, though I'm still learning about, and it seems like you all are using it too, which is cool, is Digital Theater Plus, which is principally performances from the West End and beyond, across the pond, as they say. Same kind of thing. You can go browse by plays and productions, but they also do have interviews again with different people. I clicked on it before, and it's, you know, everybody from actors, directors to costume designers. I think specifically it was a wig designer, which is pretty cool. Recently, this is another one of these databases that started up intending for an individual use, and then they realized they could help keep the lights on by selling it to institutions, which is great. We were happy to have it. So they've been adding more theory and criticism in addition to the actual plays, and you know, this, they have some links for how you might want to teach with DT Plus if you ever end up going that route. But these are pretty cool. Faculty member was looking for information on the Seagull, the Chekhov play, and we found a great little kind of write-up in here where it wasn't too in-depth. It was reasonably short but insightful. So there's some really interesting things you'll find in here. And to give you another example of interesting things you'll find in here, I always point out at the bottom, you can browse by plays and productions. I do that in part too, because in addition to being Digital Theater Plus, there's dance in here, there's music, though it's principally musical theater and theater. But what I didn't realize when I clicked on this before, resource type, and I was like, graphic novels. I did not know anything about this. And sure enough, there's about 20 graphic novels in here, largely manga Shakespeare books, which is kind of cool. But I was most intrigued by this picture of Dorian Gray, which I will definitely be reading this weekend, time permitting. So just random stuff. You'll never know what you find until you start exploring them. So take advantage of it while you're here. I know with the streaming video, I always joke, you know, my girlfriend has Hulu and Amazon, and I have Netflix and HBO Max, and we still find ourselves using these things to get something that's a little bit more, dare I say, off the beaten path. So there's some really cool things you can find in here. To give you an example of that, and to mention my girlfriend one more time, when I first started here, I was exploring these databases, and I had just finished watching David Tennant's run of Doctor Who. My girlfriend had got me into that. And sure enough, I'm scrolling through here, and there's good old David Tennant, my favorite Doctor Who, doing a modern retelling of Much Ado About Nothing with none other than one of his companions from the show, Catherine Tate. So pretty cool. It was like a nerd trifecta. Had to watch that immediately. So there's some really cool things in here. And what's nice about this compared to the one that I'll show you in a minute, Alexander Street, Alexander Street will have great performances, but some of them might be captured in the 70s, the 80s, so the quality of the recording of the performance might not be great. Well, you're not going to run into that here. They're really well done recordings from what I've seen. Cool. Any thoughts about that before I use David Tennant as my Shakespeare segue? No? Cool. I'm going to go back to the library homepage, back to streaming video and online resources, and at the very bottom, I have to mention Shakespeare's Globe on screen real quick. This one we did get in within the last year at a request of a faculty member, which is great. And like I kind of just mentioned too, which is really cool about this, is they're all performances captured between 2008 and 2018, so they're pretty current. They're broken off into two sections, volumes 1, volume 2. We have both. My guess is in the next year or two, there will be volume 3. Well, maybe a few more years because the pandemic probably slowed down them having productions, obviously. But there will be a volume 3, and then we'll keep getting them. The landing page, as you can see, is not very exciting. It's just, here's the alphabet and here's the plays. But the actual plays, and again, this was requested by faculty, so they know more about this than I do. But they seem really high quality and pretty well put together. And of course, a famous location, which isn't the worst thing in the world. Well, we could sit here and listen to the bells ringing all day, but we can move on. So yeah, that one's pretty cool too. Again, especially in terms of quality, I think it's really nice. Down here, those were the three I wanted to mention. I'm going to skip over Rhizome and Rock's Back Pages, but they are there. Rock's Back Pages doesn't have any video. We actually should take it down. This used to be an audio and video page, but we got rid of most of our audio. But Rock's Back Pages does have audio interviews with rock artists. And when they say rock, they basically mean not classical. Anybody else? Hip hop, jazz, krautrock, rock, all covered, but not too much classical. All right, that said, two more streaming video sites to touch on. You can see up top in our best bets, we recommend you start with Alexander Street. That's simply because it has the most videos with 65,000 films. But you can see, interestingly enough, we actually have two ways to get in there, what we call Alexander Street and what we call Alexander Street Video. I want to show both real quick for two different reasons. Alexander Street Video is great for just browsing. It's got a modern, whatever, Netflix kind of feel. You can scroll through and see what they're highlighting. Obviously, great for Black History Month, newest things, various film platforms. I'm actually, that's the where they're pulling from, which is kind of cool. I always like to highlight, as much as you're going to find a lot of documentaries in here, there are feature films too, so feel free to use this just to watch a movie. Persepolis is, of course, great. I was in here the other day, well, last semester with a teacher. I was scrolling through, and she stopped me at the Devil's Backbone, which I was not familiar with, but it's apparently either a prequel or a sequel to Del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. So I was like, oh, that's another thing on my long list of things to watch when I have time. You think in this time we'd have more time, but it doesn't feel that way. In any case, there's some really cool things in here, the vast majority of which are, the full movie. Occasionally you'll see this sample thing. This is something they just started sneaking in on us, so we've asked them what that is about, but haven't heard back yet. But again, if you just want to come and watch a movie, it's pretty cool. You can also, of course, search, and you can search by videos or by channels. So for example, if I just go obvious and type in theater, it's going to give you some suggestions. The first one is way off, Theater of War. So we skip that though, and then we see their theater and video collections, stories from people I believe in the theater, or at least in America, some of whom are going to be in the theater. And this is why I like the other way of getting into Alexander Street as well. If we go back to that streaming video page, this top link to Alexander Street, it has a little bit more of a classic feel. I would call a little bit more of an academic feel, but what's nice is it has it broken out in all of these kind of more traditional ways. So you can click on disciplines, go to music and performing arts, click on theater, then you can browse their theater through all these different subject headings. So I'm a really big fan of that. Also, and I haven't had a chance to finish that yet, but I know I just went through that pretty quickly. Hopefully by tomorrow evening, I'll have this Canvas module set up that I can share with you all. And it's just going to, I can even throw this video in there, but it's going to kind of highlight what I'm mentioning today. So if you wanted to say, hey, how did he get to the theater stuff in Alexander Street? You can go to the streaming video one, scroll down to Alexander Street, and I'm trying to map everything out for you as best as I can. I would like to do this for all of our disciplines here, but since I happen to be coming here today, I thought, well, let's give them the A1 treatment.
Thank you.
And part of the reason I'm doing this too is from our main homepage. I will mention we do have subject guides down here under recommended resources by subject. I think we have 4 on theater. So we have African American theater, we have character research for the theater, musical theater reference sources, and one more at the bottom, general theater research. These are great, I think, but they're also very, very print heavy. So by all means, you can explore these. And like I said, we're getting to, if somebody wasn't here when I started talking, we are in the library a couple of times a week now. So if you need a song scanned, or you're looking at this and you would love a chapter of the Acting International Encyclopedia scan, just let us know, and we'll try to do that for you as quickly as we can. Like I said, we're only going twice a week, so it's not going to be instant, but we'll happily do that for you. So these are very print heavy. So I'm hoping this Canvas one, sorry to make you all dizzy as I go back, I'm hoping this Canvas module on the online resources will make it a little bit easier for you all too. So expect, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll get it done, and then I can reach out to the staff over at the Pig Iron at the best way to get it to everybody. But I have digressed. So yeah, theater in here, and you can see them all broken out, which is kind of nice. What's also nice about searching in a database like this directly instead of using one search, and sorry, I'm going to use a music example because it's my go-to, is if you do a search in one search, it's only going to be searching the metadata. So it's going to be searching like title, author, subject, those kind of things. If you do a search in Alexander Street, and I believe this is also true for Canopy, A lot of them are going to have, and wait for it as I click on it, a lot of them are going to have full transcripts. So it's great. You're not only searching the basic fields, you're searching the full transcript. And once you're there, you can, of course, pop it in. Oh, you have to spell it correctly. And hop over right to wherever they're talking about Miles.
Miles Davis and the Quintet.
Which is kind of nice. This will work for any of them that have transcripts, the vast majority of which do. I use this example as again because a student wanted interviews with or about Miles Davis, and using this we found a bunch of people talking about them. And it's nice. We're all staring at the screen so much now. Sometimes it's nice to put on an interview and turn your head away. Yeah.
So you just searched for Miles Davis in Alexander Street. It scanned the 65,000 titles. And are all of those films transcribed so that any mention of Miles Davis in a film will pop up, and then you can search it in here and it will take you to the moment in that film where that was mentioned?
Pretty much, yeah. I would be remiss to say every of the 65,000 films in here have transcripts, but the vast majority of the ones I've stumbled upon have.
Wow.
But full disclosure, this is part of the Kenneth Burns series of jazz, which is, I don't know, 15 films. And for whatever reason, all of them except for one have a transcript. Can't tell you why. But for the most part, yeah, they're pretty well put together. All right, and let me go back. Thank you. I think you actually said that much clearer than I did. Cool. So I'm going to go back to the streaming video page. And then before I look at the last one I want to talk about, Canopy, I want to ask if anybody has any questions. Cool. So I want to talk about Canopy for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's got a lot of great stuff in here, but as I mentioned kind of in passing before, it's also very expensive. To that end, when you click on Canopy now, it's going to take you to the roughly 250 films we currently have licensed from them. So that means any of these films here, let me just scroll through and see if anything jumps out at me. Black Theater. So any of the ones here you can click on and immediately watch. Well, we don't have to wait for it.
Humid, arid years when you could see nothing.
It's so hard to not go down the rabbit holes. But you can click on it and start watching immediately. Once you're in here, if you start clicking around, let's see how long this takes. There you go. You'll run into ones that say the University of the Arts doesn't offer this right now. The problem with this compared to every other database we have is every other database we have, we give them a lump sum of money and then we have access to it for a year. This is what they call patron-driven acquisitions. So it means we basically go into the year having no idea how much we're going to spend. And we end up spending a lot. We don't mind spending a lot, but sometimes we've purchased things in here that were in Alexander Street or in some other place. So we wanted to keep a better eye on it. So there's something in here you really need access to. We are taking faculty requests. So you have two options. Number one, shoot a faculty member like Quinn an email. They can contact us, and if we can get it for you, we absolutely will. I also have no shame in mentioning other resources you have to while you're students at UArts. And the free library is another great example of an amazing resource you have access to. And if you're thinking, well, we're studying remotely and I'm across the bridge in Jersey, it doesn't matter if you are a student in Philadelphia, which you are, you can sign up for a free library card. And you can do it online. It takes less than 2 minutes. You put in your information, they shoot you a text, and then you have access to all of their things. So they have a public license version of Canopy where you can watch 4 movies a month. So there might be one you stumble across in here that you're like, well, I'd really like to see it, but it's not for class. Nobody else is going to watch it here. Go over to the free library and watch it there. Use their resources as well.
And it took me a little while to realize what this, as a newcomer to Philadelphia many years ago, what the free library is. The free library is the name for the public library of Philadelphia. And there are many branches. There's a central branch. It's a great resource for things like researching grants for original performance works. They have a whole division that's set up as like helping nonprofits research grant opportunities and a database for that. And I think it's probably fairly easy to get a card. They have physical branches, which are probably open if you're around to go check books out and whatnot, but it also is has a huge online presence. I didn't realize that they had Canopy, and it sounds like they have a license that's far larger in terms of the number of Canopy titles.
Yeah, it's a different way of looking at it. So for them, they allow everybody to watch a certain number of movies per month. So they have access to everything, but that they set up the same amount. They pay the same amount no matter what happens. They don't allow that for academic institutions. So basically, previously, if somebody went in and clicked on something after 12 seconds, that counts as a view. So we would have people clicking on, they barely get through the I can't get it out, the title sequence, and then they're like, no, I don't want to watch this. But for us, that counted as a view. So that happens 3 times on a film, and then we have to pay for that film for a year. And it was just getting out of control.
What you just did was you watched that film, Black Theater, and then it had recommended titles next to it, one of which was this Peter Brook, The Tightrope. And right? Is that what you clicked on?
Yep. Yeah, all the ones over here.
Okay, and UArts doesn't own that. Is it worth, before going to the free library, is it worth trying to see if that title happens to exist in Alexander Street?
Sure, absolutely. You can see if it exists in Alexander Street. You can shoot me an email and I'll see if it exists in Alexander Street. I'll go to the free library next and see if they have it for free in Hoopla, which is another resource they have. Yeah, I'm happy to do the legwork on some of these things too. And also we are trying to curate a collection, in a perfect world, in post whatever world, we would go back to just having open access to Canopy, which we just can't afford to do right now. But in the meantime, sorry, bear with me as I go back to this home page. Everything that we currently have on our Canopy page here are all things we know that the community is using fairly regularly. So if there's something you're going to bring into a class, or if there's something as a student that you get that everybody else in your program is going to want to watch, let us know. And if we can get it, we will. But yeah, there's not a ton of crossover between Alexander Street and Canopy, but there is some. I tend to have better luck with the academic kind of documentaries that cross over, as opposed to, this Andy Warhol film or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely check out the free library too. They have great stuff. As Quinn said, the branches are all doing different things, but as my understanding is, at the very least, they're doing curbside pickup. I know the main branch down at the square, you can go in and browse and everything. Just, they're trying to keep everybody safe too. But yeah, and just as a quick aside too, from our main library page, if you go into access and borrowing, we do have using other Philadelphia libraries listed here. And for the free library, we'll show you exactly where you go to apply online. So we have it set up there as well. As a quick aside, the reason they call it the free library, my understanding, don't quote me on this, but the reason they call it the Free Library of Philadelphia rather than just the Library of Philadelphia is because Ben Franklin started the original library company of Philadelphia way back in the day, and that was a subscription library, meaning you could use it, but you had to pay them every month to come in and use their stuff. So when the free library came around, they didn't want people thinking you had to pay for them, so they called it Free Library. So if that story is true, it's ridiculous on so many levels. As a librarian, I should probably research that before I say it.
There was a little thing that you scrolled down to, which said free library and then theater collection or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Down below. There it is, theater collection, above, up a little bit.
You can see it better.
Keep scrolling up. It's like right
scrolling up. Sorry.
There it is, theater collection. It's underlined and has a
yes,
phone.
My bad. Yeah, I am blanking on the free librarian's name. I did get to go down there once and get a tour of it. It's pretty amazing. They have more things than I could ever imagine. They're still working on indexing it. They still have card catalogs that they're using, so not everything is digital. Okay. They have some really cool things. I can't remember her name, but she's amazing. If you wanted to get it, I mean, I don't know in the current situation, but generally speaking, if you shot her an email, she would be more than happy to take you in and show you around, or set up a class visit, or you and 10 of your friends. They have some really cool stuff in there for sure. They have actual like little mini sets, designs and everything. And they have the Barrymore, I don't know what they call it, life book, where it's just a list of everybody who was born and when they passed and when they got married and when they had kids. It's crazy. And they actually reached out to the Barrymore family to see if they wanted it back, and nobody said anything. So it's still there as far as I know. But yeah, that theater collection is great. Have you ever been down there, Quinn?
Oh, haven't. I mean, I've been there. I've never seen the theater collection.
Yeah, it's locked away. I hope I'm remembering this correctly, because I've had the pleasure of touring a few libraries up until the last year, over the past couple of years, but it's locked away in a basement. Like, you do have to have, it's part of their special collections. So you do have to like get in there and get back there. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool though. Definitely worth an afternoon. Okay, I've digressed again. So back to the library homepage. I think I covered everything about the streaming video, Digital Theater Plus on the boards, Shakespeare Globe on screen, Alexander Street, and Canopy. Any questions about any of that or anything else you want to see or re-see?
If I had a, let's say I wanted to see if something exists in a digital format. So there's a piece that I saw and it had a limited streaming last year. It's called The Encounter, and it's Simon McBurney and Theater Complicité. And I know that, I mean, there's a beautiful version of it. I don't know if libraries have access to it, but it was a show that had like many tours, and they made a digital version of it, which I haven't been able to locate as existing anywhere because it was kind of under lock and key. So I wonder though if one of these services has it. If I were to search generally, would I have to go into each tab and look to see if Digital Theater has it, to see if Alexander has it, Canopy has it, or is there another way to search all of them?
So the short answer is this one search here is going to try to search all of them. So yeah, you will get results from Alexander Street. Currently, you won't get results from Canopy, but I have to talk to Josh about fixing that whole thing. But you also get results from Digital Theater. You'll get results from Globe on screen. On the boards, not so much. In order for us to give you results in this one search, they have to give us what's called MARC records, and on the boards doesn't do that to the best of my knowledge. But for the most part, if you search here, you'll get a good feel for everything. Speaking of ones like that, somebody else asked me about another one last semester that I couldn't get. But feel free to let me know too. I have no shame, especially in our current situation. I've gotten full scans of magazines from publishers that are just like, here, just take it. We realize you can't get what you need right now. An editor once sent me the email of the person who wrote the article, and the person who wrote the article dug it up from her PC and was just like, here's the copy I sent to them. Do what you want with it. So I'm more than happy to reach out to people and say, hey, I'm a librarian over here. Can we buy your stuff? And sometimes they say yes, which is really nice. But it's funny you mentioned that because I'll use this as my segue because I like to point this out specifically with ebooks. So many times over the past year, I've gotten emails from people that are like, hey, can you get us this ebook? And I politely respond, no. And they say, but why? It's on Amazon. Amazon is selling individual licenses. We have to get an institution license. So we can't always get everything. This applies to video too. A music teacher was asking me about the documentary Caged Bird about Florence Price. And we have it on DVD. And you can buy it for $2.99 for a year from Venmo or whatever it's called. But we can't buy it as an institution. That would break their terms of conditions. So that ends up being a problem. And we run into the same thing with ebooks, where we'll see it on Amazon, but we can't get it through any of our providers, which is kind of a bummer. Not going to lie about that. But don't hesitate to ask us. Again, I use everything at my disposal. I've found a few things I mentioned already, but Hoopla is like another free library thing where you have a limited amount of use, but you can use it every month, and they have everything: graphic novels, videos, ebooks, audiobooks, and I found a few things in there for people. So again, don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me do some of the legwork for you. I'm more than happy to do that. I enjoy doing it, to tell you the truth. That's why I'm a librarian. But on this ebooks page, use that as my segue. The first one I won't really go into. It's EBSCO, which is who our OneSearch is provided by. So that's where we get everything. Down here, I will mention very quickly, eBook Central is the one that I bought a few real books and musical anthologies through that are terrible. I'm still hoping they'll fix them, so I'm keeping an eye on that. But two that might interest you in particular are these Bloomsbury Drama Online Playtext and New Play Exchange. I'll start with New Play Exchange. We've had that one for a while. It's another one of these sites that started out with individual access and then realized there might be a need for it in academic places. And actually, it was the now retired head of the Bryn School that wanted us to get this, and we more than happily did. But it's pretty much as if you have an institutional individual access, except for you can't do silly, not, I shouldn't call it silly things, but you can't do little things like making a reading list. You can only read it now. But it's all pretty contemporary things. You can see when you click on it, if you can, there might be a download option on the right, which is kind of cool. And there's lots of different ways. Let me go back. I apologize. Sometimes I go quicker than I should. But if you click on plays, people, organization, there's lots of different ways to narrow it down as well. So over here, you can see play info if you want a particular length. You could see actors, gender, age, ethnicity, all those kind of things over here. So if you're looking for like a monologue or something, it might be a cool place to explore. And my understanding of it is that it's all very contemporary things. And I think you do have to submit to them, but I know we have a few people from UArts that have submitted their work there and they've taken it. So it's kind of cool. So if you're looking for a script, that might be a good place to go. And I also have to hammer on Bloomsbury Drama, so long. Bloomsbury Drama online play text. This was the one we got within the past year, specifically to kind of make up for all the plays that at the time were sitting on our shelves that we didn't have access to. Now, if you find one in our catalog, I'll show you that in a second too, before I run out of time. We'll try to scan it for you, but we also have this one, which has like a core collection, the Sayora books, which is focused on women and Black and Asian playwriters, which is really cool, and 2 more down here. They just released a 5th one, which I'm trying to fight to get us access to. We shall see. But you can come in here, and much like the Shakespeare Globe on screen, it's not the most exciting thing to browse. It will load covers in a second. I think it's literally trying to load all 2,432 plays when you click on it, so it's a bit much. If that happens, you can also browse by the individual collection below it. But all of these here should be full text plays you should be able to click on. I'm going arbitrary here and read the play. And you're in. And then you can just read the play. So we're hoping this is serving as a good, excuse me for being very fast, as a good backup to what we have on the shelves. And I'm gonna go back, bear with me here. And sometimes there are these little play tools. I haven't explored them too much, but you as the creators might want to. So lots of fun things in there too. And like I said, there's a 5th one coming, so we're going to try to add that into. Most of these should show up in one search. Another thing to mention about that is when we talked a little bit about if you search there, are you searching everything? Is there sometimes will be a lag. So they might add 5 things today, but it won't get updated into our catalog until next month. So just trying to know all these different ways you can find things isn't the worst idea in the world. Cool. I'm going to go back to the library homepage. How many times have I said that? And I do want to mention articles real quick. The first time I came, I didn't plan on talking about articles, but then sure enough, at the very end, somebody was like, do you all have JSTOR? And I was like, huh, I didn't see that coming. That's the one that gives freshmen, you know, their eyes rolled up to the back of their heads when you talk about scholarly academic things from JSTOR. And sure enough, one of you all want to know about it. So real quick, I will mention a couple of things here. We recommend starting with OneSearch because OneSearch does do a really good job of searching all of these databases. The biggest exception is the New York Times. We do have an institutional subscription to them, which includes everything, the current headlines, their archives, except the crossword puzzle. They charge an absurd amount of money to have access to that. But if you are a crossword junkie like my coworker Victoria is, she found out if you sign up for free for the New York Times here first, then sign up for the crossword puzzle, they charge you half price. Just an aside in case you want to know that. And this is really cool. You can get, and you can play the mini. Good job, Brooke. Thank you. And this is, you know, really cool. You can customize it. I get the headlines to myself every day. I get the book review every week, and I get the theater review. So it's pretty cool. I definitely recommend if you don't have access to the New York Times, which I totally understand, sign up for it here. It's pretty handy dandy. Along with that, we have ProQuest, which is very performing arts heavy, so you all might want to know about that. Again, it should pull all those things up into OneSearch, but just knowing that it's there, you know, sometimes if you're doing more in-depth research, it might not hurt to take the extra 5 minutes and pop it in there as well as OneSearch. And then going down again, they get hyper specific. Eric is a great resource if you're looking for, if you want to search their index, some full text, but largely index provided by the government, all about education. So if you're going to be into education, it's a great place to go. We used to have this run of Life magazine going back to forever, which was just fun to browse. You know, you want to open up, and I'm saying this as a smoker that's been on the patch for 2 months, but you know, you open up a magazine from the 40s and it's like, oh, here's why smoking will help clear up your cough. Interesting. So it's just a fun thing to flip through. We left it up here because we think it's pretty cool that Google's doing a great job of archiving all of that, especially for people like us that lose those things in floods. Yeah, so that's my quick, oh, and of course, JSTOR, that's where I wanted to go to. And if you are looking for academic stuff, JSTOR is a great place to go, of course. It's got a little bit of everything, but everything you find here is scholarly, it's peer reviewed. So if you're working on a thesis or what have you, this might be a great place to start. Not that using OneSearch isn't a great place to start, but if you know you want stuff that's straight from academic sources, straight from peer reviewed sources, everything you find here should be. So that's a good benefit of going there. Very last quick, I have to mention, so I don't, since we've talked about OneSearch so much, I have to at least show you what's going on there now. So to give you an example, let's just do theater. So I just want to show you a couple of things real quick. First and foremost, when you're doing a search from off campus and off the VPN, you'll notice right up top, it says you are searching as guest login. So in order to view any of these actual results, you do have to click that. It's probably going to log me right in, but because I'm in and out of these things all the time. But if you don't use this stuff very much, it's just going to show you a library branded web page. You enter the same information you use to get into the portal, and then you can see it. But you might also notice it says sign in here, and you think, but I just did sign in. Why do I have to sign in again? It's kind of like using a Netflix account. That first time you sign in, it's just telling Netflix to have an account. And the second step is going to say who you are. So this is if you want to have your personal information. So for example, if I click this little theater button, this little folder button next to theater down here, it pops it into my folder here. That's temporary because we didn't do the optional second step sign in. So the minute you close this, all of that is going to go away. So if you are doing research and you want to save things into folders, maybe you find something you don't know if you want to go back to it in a week, create the account. It takes 2 minutes. You can even now do the sign in with Google, which is even quicker, and you'll have an account. You can save things and not lose them. I don't want to harp on that too much, but we had a rash of people that were really confused by that when we first went remote, and they kept saving things, and they kept disappearing. So I don't want that to happen to any of you all. The other thing I do want to mention here is you're limited to just full text. And that means everything you're finding should be digital, online, and you should have immediate access to. So you can see online, but that also, there's a video. But what that also means is we cut off all the physical things, because at the time, and I'm debating with my boss right now whether or not to change that, but that means you're not getting anything we have physically. So you might, as theater people, want to unclick this. And then you're going to get something, theater so broad, I should have been a little more specific. Let's see. Ooh, this is still all online. Let me do a different search. I'm trying to go obvious, not too obvious, but theater. All right, so you can see first we have PDF. Press this through interlibrary loan, and there we go, finally. So here you can see one that's actually a physical book in the library. Now that we have a little bit of access to it, I think we should open it up to finding those things. But in the meantime, you won't, unless you unclick that full text box. And since we mentioned music before, that applies to music. Almost all the sheet music we have is only physical. So if you want to find sheet music in here, a particular song or what have you, definitely unclick that full text box. Or from the library homepage, use the catalog, which is a much easier way to find songs. When you do a search for a song and it's multiple words, make sure you put it in parentheses so it searches all the words as a phrase, not just, I'll get there, not just the words individually. Just a quick aside. And then you can see we'll find Kind of Blue. Again, these are physical things in the library. So
if we, let's say we're a second year and we're going to be doing some cabaret in a little while, and we want to make sure we have this sheet music, and I have this idea of a song. How do I go from finding the song to getting you all to go it and send me a PDF of it?
Fair enough. We sent an email. So hopefully if you want, you can check your email and send it. But basically, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. And actually, now that I say that, I might ask Josh to put it up. Oh, here, well, it's kind of up here, but maybe we should add about scanning. But just email the library's website, libraries@uarts.edu. And we're adding it all to a sheet, and we're kind of rotating, going through and scanning stuff.
And just say, I would like the sheet music for Kind of Blue.
Yep, pretty much. Ideally, I mean, we'll work with that because we're pretty laid back. But ideally, I don't think I have this handy. Actually, maybe I do. Bear with me 1 second. And the email I sent. Catalog. Oh, I have so many things. We always have so many things. Title, status. So ideally, what we said, if you're able to find it in a library, to let us know what the title is, the location, and the call number, so we can go in and quickly find it because we have such a limited amount of time, and also just check shelves and make sure it's there. Keep in mind that everything that was checked out prior to March of 2020 has essentially not been returned. So we have students that graduated, they still have stuff, and that we totally understand that. There's a lot of stuff kicking out there that we don't have on the shelves because people have it and we're not fighting to get it back. But that's the information that would really make our lives easier to get it as quickly as possible. But again, if you can't find something in the catalog, let us know. Part of the reason that I am trying to convince Josh to turn off that full text thing is a student did contact me. He wanted a song. He's like, I know we have the song. I've seen it in there when I was there. I keep searching in the catalog and it's not showing up. And I'm like, oh, you're searching in one search and we're hiding it from you. So I'm glad he contacted me, and then I was able to say, you're right, we still have it, we'll get it for you. But we're adjusting to this new reality as much as everybody else. But yeah, if you just email libraries@uarts.edu, you can do that. If you want to, under contact us, I hate this picture of me, but you can always email me directly. I love hearing from everybody. Don't hesitate. Even if you're sitting there and, a week from now and you're like, I think he said something about a database that had set design stuff, shoot me an email. I will not be offended that you zoned out on Zoom for a minute. I totally get it, but we're here to help, so just let us know. I know you're probably going to rush off to something else right after this, so any thoughts, questions, anything else before I retire? Again, you'll probably get an email from me. I'll throw this video in there as well, but I'll also send it to the folks. But I'm going to try to break this stuff out so you can go back and find it that way too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, now would be a good time. Otherwise, you've given us a great overview.
Awesome. Great, thank you. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm going to stop recording because I don't think there's any questions.